Good evening, everybody. Welcome to PSGL, round number 7 of the season here in the F2 tier on the PC. And we're still not really any closer to knowing who is going to come home with that championship title. Maybe we'll decide more tonight as we are at Imola for round 7 out of 11 this season. My name is Luke Etheridge. Alongside me tonight is Chris Buxton. And Chris, Imola is a circuit I absolutely love. I love driving around it on other games. In these F1 cars, though, it's not really universally loved by the drivers. I think that's putting it politely.
It's a bit divisive, isn't it? And yeah, if anything, we're further away from knowing who's in the running for the top spot in this season now. With F1 coming to a close, there have been driver changes going on. Luke Smith has now gone to a reserve slot, even though he's still in with a shot of the top spot, or technically defending his. That's got to be a first, the champion going to a reserve slot mid-season. But such is the nature of the beast, and so we have got the F1 Pro Series coming up. But yeah, round 7 of 11, so we are well into the halfway stage, and we've got no breakaway leader whatsoever. Only one person actually has 2 wins on the in the season. That's Alfie Butcher, who sits 1 point behind Pedreño. And that's impressive, as Alfie Butcher has missed 2 rounds. Even more impressive is Joost Noordijk in third, having missed 3 rounds.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy how this season's gone so far. I mean, last time out at the Italian Grand Prix, Alfie Butcher became the first man actually to get consecutive podiums this season, finishing in 2nd place. Joost Noordijk finished in 3rd, but it is a victory for George Nader. His 2nd podium of the season, his first points since that podium, way back in round number 1. Things have definitely not gone as well as I think the Lebanese driver would have hoped. But it is Ruben Pedreño still holding on to the top spot in the championship at the moment on 46 points. Butcher there in 2nd. I mean, you just have to look at it there. Noordijk 38, Smith 34, Wiesel 31. Can't really write off Perrinier, Nader, even Scheller and Hofland aren't exactly too far behind. It is so close at the moment. And with a break week after next week's race, now wouldn't be a bad time for someone to start showing some good form and putting some momentum in.
That's it, isn't it? Is whilst we've got some, okay, they'll need a bit more luck on their side, but they have got enough time between now and the end of the season to pull in those last points. We do have a few changes to the normal driver lineup. Floris Vyers is standing aside for Danny Lusing in the Haas. Jordan Poland is replacing Andrei Tarabukin in the Mercedes. Jack Laverty is replacing Primož Miklavčič in the Alfa Romeo. Luke Smith, he's still with us on the grid. He's replacing Will Lewis in the 2nd of the Mercs. As we are now loading in, what's the weather going to be? It's cloudy at Imola. So, anticlimactic start to the session. And what are we going to see? Is anybody going to move? Well, no one is looking to move just yet. 19 drivers are joining us for this session. Ooh, what are we looking forward to? Ooh, I just say no one was moving. We suddenly have a flurry of activity. Both McLarens, both Astons, Alfa, Ferrari. I think both Alpines. My God, we've got a sudden flurry very early on. Now, that generally means the weather could be inclement. We will see. You don't typically find that many people breaking cover that quickly, so we'll see what happens. Cloud in the air, we might have rain on the ground.
Yeah, we saw this in the, I believe it was the F3 qualifying session earlier on. Started off dry, ended up wet, so the final 3 or 4 minutes, no one actually managed to get any laps in, and a 1:14.5 was the fastest time that we saw in that qualifying session. You might remember there was a couple of incidents last time out. We saw Floris and Andrei Tarabukin get pretty close. That didn't go to the stewards. Andrei also got close with Max Wiesel. A warning was given for that. I think the most contentious one, certainly at the front of the field, there was contact between Alfie Butcher and Ika Baena. That one also being given for a warning in the end. I mean, one of the things I do love about this circuit, talking of warnings, in terms of track limits, there's a lot of gravel and a lot of grass around here, which tends to keep the drivers focused on keeping it in between the white lines.
Yeah, Variante Alta is probably, well, it's not called Variante Alta these days, but I still call it that. The last chicane before Ravazza is probably the only place you'll get away with any kind of track extension. Everywhere else is either grass or gravel, so that will keep the drivers in check, as is George Nader. And, George Nader, Alfie Butcher, first ones over the line to start there. There's actually a few ahead of them. I'm trying to figure out who they are. But we have got the entire field bar Simon Perroni, oddly enough, the only car to remain in the pits early on. Maybe he's just going to do a single flying lap. We will see. Yeah, Ruben Pedreño, the last couple of rounds, he's finished off the podium. So he's had a bit of a mixed season. I think it's fair to say everybody has had a mixed season, with the exception probably of Joost Noordijk. For every round he's finished, he's been on the podium. He just missed 3 and stood on all 3 steps of the podium, still third in the championship. So that's gone right. And Jordan Podolak, has he got a quali ban?
I think he has got a quali ban. He was about...
I was going to say, he's just come into the pits and retired, so I'm assuming he has a quali ban.
Yeah, I think that's a layover from Japan, where he actually blocked Ruben Pedreño quite harshly in qualifying. So that's a carryover from that one. I actually managed to get in a couple of people's way in that qualifying session. So some of the others might be pretty pleased to see that Jordan is in the pits. George Nader going fastest of everyone on a 1:14.667. His teammate instantly going behind. But we're following Ruben Pedreño around the final couple of corners now with I don't know how to describe it other than a Finding Nemo fish head helmet on that McLaren. I mean, it's orange. It kind of does go with the car. And he slots it into second at the moment, just behind Joost Noordijk. I mean, Joost is one of those... He's had a podium every single race he's took part in, which says brilliant consistency. Unfortunately for him, he's only competed in half the races so far. But you just get the feeling if he turns up more often, and now that the summer holiday period is over, you'd imagine he will be doing, he's certainly looking very good for the championship.
He's certainly getting his name well known out there, isn't he? Yeah, I just had a look at Ruben Pedreño's helmet there. It does match the colour scheme of the car as he nearly tangles up with one of the Astons. It's very much, Ruben, you've been tangoed. For anyone that remembers those old adverts in the UK. Who else hasn't put a lap on the board yet? Luke Smith, I think. Has he done his lap or is he on his lap? I think he might be. He's on his lap, as is Matthew Alder. No, Alder has come into the pits. What can Luke Smith, the defending champion, get on the board? No, that's back into the pits for the Mercedes. So no idea what pace he was setting. So just, technically 5 cars without a time, only 4 of which can set one. Jordan Podolak has retired the car in the pit lane. So the first flurry of laps done, we're already into the 14.5s.
Yeah, already into the 14.5s. I mean, we're faster, actually, than what we saw in F3 earlier on. So that just shows you how good times everyone's setting. It's Jack West in second place at the moment, alongside his new teammate, Chan Akinci, for tonight. Williams top of the Constructors' Championship after their 1-2 last time out. They're now on 71 points. Aston Martin have 61. It's a McLaren, Alpine, Ferrari, AlphaTauri, Alfa Romeo, Red Bull, Haas and Mercedes bringing up the rear at the moment, as Luke Smith has unfortunately left the session. Hopefully he is able to get himself back in as Jack West pulls into what is one of the longest pit lanes on the calendar. You hit that limiter very early on. You lose plenty of time around here. If you have to make a second stop for whatever reason, you're in trouble around most circuits. Around here, though, you're talking nearly a 30-second pit loss.
Yeah, Spa is quite an unforgiving pit lane as well. Simon Perroni then is just coming over the line. Let's follow the Alfa Romeo through his laps. He comes screaming down towards the Tamburello. Used to be Trigado in Tamburello. It's just referred to as Tamburello now. This sequence of left, right, left corners keeps that one nice and steady. Doesn't wander too wide on this old-fashioned circuit. Now it's the Villeneuve chicane, where numerous people will be having trouble. It is such a hot spot there. Now Toza, the first heavy braking zone of the lap, down into 4th gear. Purple sector 1, but there's nothing too much to read into that, as a lot of cars have flooded back out of the pits once again. Up the hill and through Piratella. It's the highest part, I think it's the highest part of the circuit, or certainly one of them. Back down the hill, it's quite a sudden drop there down to Acqua Minerale. The double right-hander just about keeps the car in the bounds of the track. Now screaming towards the Variante Alta. Bounces over the really difficult curbs, and that lap's gone. As there was too much curb taken on the exit, and he had to turn hard right into a left-hander to give the car under control. I wouldn't be surprised if Perroni brings this one back into the pits, as he lost quite a bit of time in recovering the car. Through Ravazza, Does he choose to set the lap? Didn't think he would. That's back in the pits for Pironi. What about Rimvaleo? He is just coming through Piratella. Now, this is going to be awkward for him because a lot of cars ahead of him, none of them are on hot laps. So he's going to... Oh, never mind. The tails let go coming through Akamirarati. It's such an elevation change there. It's very easy to get that all wrong. And the McLaren got all crossed up coming through there. And that's another lap gone. As I think George Nader is again at the front of the train that's just come back out of the pits. So now the Williams is winding up for another go to improve on 14.667 that currently sees him in 5th.
Yeah, currently in that 5th place at the moment. Every time a Williams has been on pole position so far this season, which is 3 occasions, they've managed to win. So Nader and Butcher definitely leading from the front. Hello to, in the chat, our new Season 31 PSGL PC F1 champion. The first time Jarno Otmir has not won it. It is Lucas Blakely, and it is short qualifying. 18 minutes of qualifying. We've got 10 minutes and 4 seconds remaining, and then it will be the 50% 32 lap race around here. Nader has invalidated on this lap, as has his teammate, so they're not finding things nice and tidy for them at the moment. Let's see what Chanakinchi can do. He's done 3 races so far this season. Started off with a 3rd from pole in Mexico, a 6th place in Japan. Damage on lap 1 in Italy, though, at Monza. Not too far away from the Imola circuit. I mean, we always talk about the Tifosi at Monza. Imola is actually a lot closer to the Maranello factory than Monza is. And in fact, the Faenza factory, where AlphaTauri is based, is even closer. So definitely a home race for both of our Italian teams. Pedreño, all the 4s for him. 114.444 for our championship leader at the moment. Puts him onto provisional pole position. We're going to follow the Turkish driver for the FES squad, Chanakinchi, around the final couple of corners, getting the hammer down and putting it down straight on his way into the pits. Joost Noordijk has also invalidated. A lot of drivers finding it tricky on these final runs.
You did say that track limits would... well, the track is fairly unforgiving in that kind of sense, so it is quite easy to invalidate the lap. They've got to push very, very hard, but if they go too far, there is nowhere for them to go. There is no big runoff areas. This is an old-fashioned track. It doesn't have lots of concrete runoff areas for the drivers to navigate through, so people have got to be careful. Isran Pookie now up into 5th position for Future Esports in the AlphaTauri. 1:14.627 is the time he's put on the board. Who is next? Is that Pironi? No, it's his teammate. Jack Laverty is next over the line, but he's already done his lap, beg your pardon. A 14.745 for that Alfa Romeo. Pironi is on another lap. Who else is on another? Carter Lundy has just started his lap. Matthew Alder, he's coming towards the end of his lap. 1:39, so I think there's some improvement to be found there, but he does have someone directly ahead of him. It is one of the Haas. There's only one Haas out there. It's Ben Sabaconi. So that explains who we're missing then, as we don't have Danny Lucing, who's standing in for Flores Vias, and that is a 14.9 for Matthew Alder. I think it's just Simon Pironi then that is on a lap at the moment. He is coming down into Ravazza. What can he get on the body? He invalidated his last run, and using every pixel of the runoff area on the exit of the double left-hander. What is his time? It's a 14.638. That slots him into 6th. How many 14.6s and 7s have we got? Goodness me, those 2 tenths of a second go from 4th down to 14th.
Yes, it could be one of those. How well you're riding that car over the curbs could well be a decisive issue tonight, especially through, like we said, Villeneuve chicane. We're seeing Perigny come through very anti-alta. That chicane just after Aqua Minimali up the climb up the hill where Yuki Tsunoda lost it in qualifying, I believe, last year. It is always a very tricky corner. And like we said, from Hofland in 4th down to Ben Shabo Konye in 14th is 1.5 tenths of a second at the moment. Not bad whatsoever, but pretty much for standard fare for PSGL F2. And feel free in the chat to predict who you think is going to take pole position. Feel free to predict who's going to take the pole position and the victory this year, courtesy of our sponsors, Grid Rival. And let's not forget our lead partners as well, GT Omega, who provide some lovely chairs for us commentators. And you can use the code PSGL to get 5% off. And I think a lot of the drivers here will be quite happy to take 0.5% of their lap time with how close things are at the moment. Carter Lundy invalidated on his lap time, so he's going to stay down in 10th. He was the winner here last time around, with Luke Smith finishing in 2nd and Simon Pernier finishing in 3rd place. We're going back on board with George Nader, who's half a 10th up at the moment, which doesn't sound a lot, but that's going to put him onto the front 2 rows of the grid as things stand.
Yeah, that's how close this grid is. Yet again, the F2 grid proving that they have got incredible pace. They are, you know, the next Top Gun, so to speak. So any wonder that they are always so close. It always amazes me. You're absolutely right, Luke. You know, it is standard affairs. Ruben Vallejo nearly tripped over Ben Sabakonyi coming down towards Ravazza. I thought there was going to be impact between the two, but they managed to avoid it. As Alfie, oh my God, 14.337 for the Williams. Well played, sir. Ruben Vallejo's just come over the line with a 14.874. My word, Alfie Butcher, if he doesn't get signed in the next few years, it will be an absolute travesty.
Yeah, certainly. I've said this so many times about him. I think not many people have managed that transition from console onto the PC as well as he did on the last game, and he's carried the form onto this one. You know, we've said it already, he's the only driver to have had consecutive podiums so far this season. Managed a 2nd place last time out. Now, could he get his 3rd win of the season? He's the only driver to get multiple wins as well this year. Arguably, only because he's missed a few races, that he's not winning the championship at the moment. Jack Laverty shoots himself up into 11th place at the moment. It's going to be Ruben Pedreño, next car across the line. He does improve time-wise, but stays in 3rd place. And it's very rare you see gaps as big as a 10th of a second in this tier. But those top 3 looking good at the moment on the 114.3s. Wow. They've built themselves a bit of a gap.
Half a tenth separating those top 3. Actually, Pedreño has managed consecutive podiums. 3rd in Spa and 2nd in Mexico, but he's the only other one that's done it. You could argue Joost has done it with Belgium, with consecutive podiums on races he's attended, but they weren't back-to-back races. As Luke Smith has actually parked the car, so both Mercedes will be starting from the back row. That is not ideal, as we're going to have everybody back into the pits. Jack Laverty is still out there, but he'll be coming back to the pits along with Ruben Pedreño, setting up for a mighty Banzai phase, as everybody is going to be getting a fresh set of boots on and getting ready to go again. Carter Lundy actually did 2 laps on that set of tyres, which is rare in qualifying. You don't tend to see it on these softer tyres, people doing multiple sets of laps. But it's put Carter up into 7th with a 15. I did it again. 14.592, just 200ths behind Nader. And here we go. The Banzai phase is beginning. Perony is one of the ones that's, well, he's actually quite some distance ahead of the rest of the pack. He seems to be doing this tonight. He seems to be purposely picking a point where there's no traffic out there, which, okay, fair enough. Maybe that's what he prefers. It's either way, he's out there on his own, as everybody else is flowing out of the pits right behind him.
Yeah, maybe not the worst idea to make sure you've got a bit of clear air now. He's just got to hope that everyone else gets out of the pits pretty sharpish, and he's not stuck behind some of the other cars. As, ooh, I've got a yellow flag there, and I'm not sure if that's a car just, I'm not sure if Duncan Hoffland's got a bit of an issue here with his wheel, because he's just cruising along down in neutral at the moment. So, yeah, very strange what's happening here with Duncan Hoffland. Just, not moving whatsoever. Looks as though, there we go, changing up gear. I think he might have just been letting some cars by there. But yeah, Duncan Hoffland, I think just trying to burn off some fuel possibly. Trying a few different things. Because obviously, it doesn't matter if you cross the finish line with 0.01 laps of fuel left. Because you're not bothered about you doing your in-lap. Because this is your final runs in qualifying. So they're trying every little tactic to get every little tiny bit of advantage at the moment. But it is Simon Pernier, the first man to finish, well, to get onto his final run in this qualifying session. We know you can do 2 runs if you manage to make a mistake on your first one. The Frenchman will be hoping for a perfect run, though. Has got a bit of traffic ahead of him, though, with a McLaren and some of the other cars that are finishing their lap. Tiny little wobble through Villeneuve. Half attempt down as he makes his way through Toza, up the climb now towards Peritello. One of the trickiest corners on the circuit, and one I think where we will see a lot of drivers getting those invalidations. The McLaren comfortably sees him, gets out the way, and now the double right-hander at Aqua Minerale. Flat out through the first part, amazes me the speed these modern Formula 1 cars can carry. And Perenier has invalidated. We'll see whether he can save enough tyres and just build up a bit of ERS and get another run in this session. Alfie Butcher, he's just started his final run as well. 39,000 clear of the rest of the field. We'll have to wait and see where he ends up.
Yeah, absolutely so. He's leaving absolutely nothing on the table. He's not resting on his laurels at all. He wants to secure that top spot. He's got a fair bit of traffic ahead of him, but then who doesn't? Purple, sector 1 for the Williams. Purple on his own best lap, I'll add, as well. So climbing up the hill then towards Piratella. He's got, I think it's the Red Bulls a little bit ahead, so it's either Jakob or Alder, but they are, I think that everyone is on a push lap, so traffic shouldn't be too much of an issue for anybody. Looking at the track map, I think everybody is fairly well spaced out. Zeller and Akinci have just finished their laps, so has Sabakonyi. Purple sector 2 for Butcher. He's gaining time somehow. I mean, God knows how. As Ethan Pookie has parked his car. Has he parked it or has he crashed it? I think he's crashed it. He has. He's actually hit the wall on the outside, on the left-hand side, on the way to the pits. But Alfie Butcher crossed the line. He lost a little bit of time in that final sector, probably because there was yellow there. He was 5 thousandths slower than his already amazing pole time. Nordyke is going to be coming over the line along with, I think it's Vallejo. Vallejo doesn't improve, does Joost Nordyke? Oh, yes, he does. 14.2, 7.1 for the Aston Martin. Carter Lundy into 4th, 14.2, 4.27 for the Canadian. What can Pedreño do? Improvement in time but not position. 14.369 for him. One of the Alphas coming over the line. No, that's Jack Laverty going into the pit. Apparently, we know he invalidated his last lap. He is pressing on. Yes, he is. So, will Simon Perroni improve? He did. Probably not. He'd already burned the best out of those tyres, but that's a 14.597 for the Frenchman. I think that is it, as everybody else has already crossed the line. So, a last mighty push lap from Joost Nordyke to pip Alfie Butcher to that top spot.
Yeah, fantastic final lap from Nordyke. It looked like Butcher, if he'd have just kept it clean in the final couple of corners, would have gone faster. But I agree with you, Chris. I think he just got a tiny bit distracted by those yellow flags, and that is sometimes all that it takes. Nordyke on pole position for the first time this year. Butcher in second and Pedreño in third. For top 3 in the championship, the top 3 in qualifying, but in the reverse order. It looks like we're not going to be any closer by the end of tonight of determining who is going to win this championship. As we take a look through the rest of the qualifying results then, it is Joost Nordyke pole position, Butcher second, Pedreño third, Carter Lundy starting in 4th place, Christoph Scheller, great qualifying from him to take 5th place, Chanakinchi is 6th, Ben Sabakonyi continuing his good form from last time out in 7th place, Norbert Jacob, George Nader and Jack West rounding out the top 10, Duncan Hoffland in 11th, just over 3 tenths off his teammate, and not bad whatsoever, Simon Perronier in 12th, and it is Pookie, Wiesel, Laverty, Alder, Vallejo, Poland, and Luke Smith. Neither the last 2 set of time. Unfortunately, Danny Lusink has been unable to get in with connection issues. We'll see you with the race right after this break. And here is the circuit everyone will be going around today then. The Autodromo Enzo E. Dino Ferrari, 19 turns, only the 1 DRS zone. Overtaking certainly not the easiest around this circuit. So that could just be a very important pole position for Joost Nordyke. I mean, once you're stuck in a DRS train around here, you've not really got any other option apart from trying something on the strategy. It is so tough to make any moves apart from into Tamburello, and even then, that's not the easiest.
It's not a very big braking zone into Tamburello, so the problem is the slower corners have relatively short straights before them. Tosa, you've got a tiny run from Villeneuve. You've got Acco Minerali, it's uphill and a relatively short run down to Variante Alta, as we are ready to go.
Yeah, the 5 lights are on. They go out and we're underway for the Imola Grand Prix. And it looks like a pretty decent start then from Alfie Butcher, side by side on the run down towards turn 1 with Joost Noordijk. Who's going to get the lead though? Into the first corner. Pedreño nearly makes it 3 wide. Butcher takes the lead of the race. Noordijk in second. Pedreño and Lundy now having their own little battle further back, and everyone has got through the first few corners cleanly, have they? No! Simon Perrier facing the wrong way, coming out of Tamburello. A nightmare start in a race where he really needed to do well to just kickstart his championship challenge once again. You can see the tyres that everyone has gone on for. Everyone starting this race on the hard tyres. Not too much of a surprise to see everyone going for that. It will be the hard mediums you would expect, barring any safety cars around this track. But a fantastic start then from Alfie Butcher, out-dragging Joost Noordijk at the start of this race. He takes the lead, and those front two actually building up a tiny bit of a gap.
You got to admire the bold Spaniard in the form of Ruben Pedreño, thinking about a 3 wide coming into Tamburello. My goodness me, that's brave at the best of times, but he bowed out of that one. Carter Lundy nearly had him as a result of that. George Nader as well has had a bit of a rough start. He's down to 18th now, so he's lost 9 positions from where he started. He was basically found on the outside, on the grass between Tamburello and Villeneuve. As we now come over the line for the first time in anger, Joost Noordijk is looking like very, very strong on the tail end of Alfie Butcher. He wants that top spot back with the Aston Martin, gets a little bit unhappy coming out of Tamburello. That's going to deny him an opportunity to try and throw it on the inside of Toza. I mean, whether he would have tried that or not remains to be seen. But yeah, the tail just was not happy, was not ready to give him as much grip as he was demanding. Everybody except for Simon Perrier is in the DRS train, and yeah, he's going to take a mistake from someone for that to significantly change, I would think. Simon Perrier can still get back involved in this race, but exactly as you said before, Luke, overtaking here is difficult, and especially with everybody in this long train, you just got to apply the pressure. It's all about pressure management in the form of applying it and dealing with it, and you've got to wait essentially for someone to crack.
Yeah, that is pretty much it. And I mean, these guys have been doing this for years now. They might all be relatively young. They've got very experienced heads though on those young shoulders, and because they're also in a DRS train, they'll know it's not worth going for a bit of a dive, because if I get it slightly wrong, then the car behind is going to be all over the back of me, and I might just end up costing myself. Someone who has got a chance though before the DRS gets activated is Duncan Hoffland, and you can just see there as soon as he pulls out of the slipstream of Bench Charbot-Cognier, loses a bit of pace, and what looked like it was going to be almost a dead cert move in towards turn number 1. The Dutchman has to stay behind the hat for now. Duncan Hoffland in 7th place. Everyone is on that hard tyre, so it'll be intriguing to say when we start to get the undercuts. I'm imagining around about lap 19, lap 20, we'll be seeing cars coming into the pits to put on that set of medium tyres, and I'm also wondering whether George Nader's got a bit of damage. He very briefly dropped outside of that DRS range there. He's trying to get back into it now, but this has really been the story of George's season. He's either been right up there towards the front with 2 podiums, but they've been his only point scores. When things go bad for him, it's gone really bad.
Yeah, it's boom or bust, isn't it, for George, unfortunately. But he hasn't given up on it. He is still charging on. Simon Perrier is closing in on the back of the pack slowly but surely. Again, there's no point in pushing too hard to try and get. He needs that ERS energy. ERS energy is not too bad here, because you've got a lot of braking zones, albeit they're not particularly long, but the straights aren't very long either to deploy the ERS. So ERS energy management is not too bad at Imola, as we see Carter Lundy claiming that fastest lap. Joost Noordijk again under the rear wing of Alfie Butcher, but he can't get close enough to make that move. Alfie is just... He's got this really sorted out a bit. He dumps the battery a little bit on the exit of Tamburello and on the exit of Villeneuve to ensure that Joost cannot utilise the braking zone into Toza to try and throw it on the inside. So there's not a cloud anywhere to be seen. So it looks like the weather is going to play no part in this race whatsoever. And Alfie will be very, very pleased with himself for that absolutely storming start that will continue his podium, his podium rush. Such as it is. Obviously, he's had 3 of them of the 4 races he's taken part in, but 2 of them were top steps. So he's looking to make that 3 wins out of the what will be 7 rounds.
Yes, and it'll be the first time this season that he's, I believe, actually no, it won't be the first time this season that he's had the lead of the championship, I don't believe, but, you know, he's done a fantastic job in the races he's took part in. All he needs to do is finish ahead of Pedreño and finish far enough, not too far behind Nordyke, and he should still be leading the championship. So even if he finishes in second and Nordyke finishes in first, which is what the order's going to be in about 2 seconds' time, as there we go, Joost Nordyke in the DRS does take the lead of this race, and Butcher drops down into second. Clearly, quite understandably, I think, not too bothered about that at the moment, as the Astons really making a move on lap number 5. That is Duncan Hofland, who's got ahead of Bencher Charbel-Cogne, and that's started to put Bencher under some pressure from Chanakinchi. And this is the other issue if you make a move. Duncan had to kind of force the issue a bit there. He's now got to burn up some of that ERS, getting him back onto the rear of the AlphaTauri ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Benson actually made a mistake there, as Chanakinchi was closed in really quickly on the back of the Haas, coming through Tamburello, but unfortunately tapped the back of the Haas, so couldn't really do anything about it. He had no room to try and swing out from behind the car to try and make the move for 7th. So he just gave the Haas a bit of a nudge, and on they go. Looks like Duncan has managed to get back into that all-crucial DRS range of the car in front, which is Christoph Zeller in 5th position. Simon Perny is still closing in. He's still keeping his... Well, I mean, you'd need a safety car and probably a Meteor to land on the track to propel him more towards the front, but he's still hanging on in there. Joost Nordyke claiming their fastest lap from the front. So he's got himself 4.5 tenths, just shy of half a second as he comes over the line. Now, Alfie Butcher is going to be, as we continue to play fastest lap tennis with whoever's claiming it.
Oh, sorry to interrupt, Chris.
Norbert Jacob.
Yeah, contact further down the rear field. Jack West went for a move there on Norbert Jacob. Norbert tried squeezing Jack, and there was contact between the two of them there. Definitely feels like one of them where maybe Jacob shouldn't have squeezed him as much. Maybe West should have just backed out of that and decided to fight another day. But Jacob ends up spinning around. Georges Nader has picked up a 3-second time penalty as well, which is less than ideal. And, you know, I think you've got some of the drivers further down the field thinking already, you know what, we're going to have to try and make some moves. We can't do anything on strategy, because as you can see on the screen at the moment, everyone is on the same one. We've got to try and be a bit more aggressive and force the issue.
And you've got to do it right. You're absolutely right, Luke. That these drivers will need to do something a little bit more creative. But again, they've got to bear in mind that they will then leave themselves open for counterattack. They will compromise the line of both cars when they make the move, and dropping out of the DRS range will be quite costly here in Imola, as now his friend Pookie claims the fastest lap in the AlphaTauri. He's in 9th position at the moment. Alfie Butcher just doing what Joost Nordyke was doing to him only a few laps ago, staying in that slipstream range and just keeping himself as close as he can to the back of the Aston Martin. But he's going to be biding his time. He's got time in this race to really think about how to maximize the pressure he's placing on Joost Nordyke. Ruben Pedreño is too far back to put any immediate pressure on. 8-9 tenths of a second back to the McLaren. As much as the Spaniard has tried to close in, he hasn't been able to do it, and that's trouble for Norbert Jacob again. He's had trouble. Frustration is kicking in now for the Red Bull. He's had a spin down at Villeneuve, so that's dropped him a very long way back. I wouldn't be surprised if Norbert Jacob opted to park the car on that occasion. That's what happens. He's pushed a little bit too hard to try and close in, and round the car went. A big shame for Norbert Jacob. Whilst I say it wouldn't be surprised if he parked it, no disrespect to Norbert, but that typically is what happened when you fall a long way back from the field. Some drivers, I should say, would tend to park the car and call it a day rather than press on. A safety car is still possible. A major incident is still possible, especially with the rest of the pack so heavily condensed. So it's always worth continuing to press on just to see what will happen.
Yeah, you never know what could happen. We've had a bit of a split further up the field as well. The top four have now got away from Christoph Schaller, so Christoph coming under all sorts of pressure from Duncan Hofland, the man who's 9th in
sorry to cut you off, Luke. We've had impact between the two Mercs. Luke Smith and Jordan Poland have come together. Now, Luke Smith was side by side with Ruben Vallejo coming into Tamburello, and as they were trying to sort themselves out, the Mercs have come together. They've both spun And Jordan is now 3 seconds behind his teammate, who's 2 seconds behind Simon Perroni.
Yeah, and no front wing for Jordan Poland. It's not the first time we've seen two Mercedes-affiliated drivers have a crash around this circuit. On the run down towards Tamburello, it wouldn't surprise me if there's similarly harsh words used between them two. They've been getting pretty close for a few laps, and unfortunately on that occasion, I mean, Jordan Poland's come out terribly from that with a broken front wing. He's going to have to go all the way to the back of the field on a strategy that he will not be able to make a one-stop work from here. Disaster for Poland, and Luke Smith off the back of Perronier as well. Not ideal whatsoever. Further up the order, as we were saying, Duncan Hoffland then on the back of Christoph Scheller. The red light's flashing on the back of the Alpha Tauri. There's no DRS on the Alpha Tauri, and I think very soon he's going to be out of the top 5 before the braking zone. Duncan Hoffland is able to take that position. He joins his teammate then in the top 5. Not looking bad for Aston Martin in that Constructors' Championship battle with Williams, and McLaren at the moment, as neither of those two teams have got both of their drivers in the points. So Aston Martin sitting pretty as things stand, but still a long way to go. We're only on lap number 9, and it is Nordyke leading from Butcher, Pedreño and Lundy. And you can just see from the way those front two are driving at the moment, about 80% for Joost Nordyke, mid-60s for Alfie Butcher. They're not really pushing too hard at this stage, which, for anyone who's watched these races before, this is the familiar pattern. The first stint's just all about setting yourself up for the final part of the race.
Yeah, totally so. But of course, Duncan Hoffland has used quite a lot of his ERS energy. He's down to 25%. I mean, he's up 6 positions from where we started, in fairness. So he's made good progress through the field. But it is going to leave him a little bit exposed if he's not able to build up that ERS energy back again. I imagine he'll just settle into a rhythm at this point. He probably won't push too hard now to gain the top 4. He hasn't really got the ERS energy to do it, so I suspect he'll just settle into a rhythm. Maybe I suspect he will keep an eye on what Christoph Zeller will do, because Zeller in the AlphaTauri is probably going to challenge for that position again if Hoffland isn't going to push too hard. So Duncan Hoffland will really want to rebuild that energy, which is difficult to do. Like I said earlier, there's not too many big, heavy braking zones, but equally, there are a lot of braking zones here compared to how long the straights are. So there are opportunities to rebuild that ERS energy, unlike certain other tracks that we have been to, where rebuilding that ERS is much, much more difficult just because of fewer braking zones compared to how long the straights are. So it won't be impossible for Duncan to build that up, but he's going to have to work at it to hang on to that top 5 position.
Yes, of course, if this was the previous layout that they used at Imola in the late 90s and the early 2000s with the Variante Bassa chicane roughly where the start-finish line is, it'd be a bit easier to build up some ERS energy, but I think it'd be even more impossible to overtake around here. So it's probably a good job that chicane is removed. They do still have one for the motorbikes just to slow them down on the run down towards Tamburello. No slowing down these front few drivers though on the run down towards Tamburello. Nordyke, Butcher, Pedreño, Lundy, with Pedreño and Lundy just about doing enough at the moment to stay within that DRS range. And I think Nordyke's not really used a lot more DRS on that lap, but Alfie Butcher's, he's down about 10-15% to where he was the other lap. He's not really got too much closer. Oh, Pedreño! So lucky there. Very nearly lost it coming out of Villeneuve, and that would have been an absolute disaster.
He caught that one very, very quickly, didn't he? I mean, that was a fair amount of luck and a hell of a lot of skill to keep that McLaren pointing in the right direction. He would have had to have pushed a bit to get back into DRS range because he was in danger of dropping outside of it. Carter Lundy is having a really good run on this occasion, as Jordan Poland, unsurprisingly, has got the fastest lap. Now he's on the medium tyres. I'd imagine like you said, I cannot see how he's got any chance of making those last to the end of the race. We will see. Stranger things have happened. If we have a safety car period, you never know. I can't see that Jordan's going to make those work, but we'll see. As now the top 4 are crossing over the line. 1.6 seconds now between Carter Lundy and Duncan Hoffland. So Duncan is trying to whittle away that gap, but he is, like I said before, he's going to have to he's going to have to think carefully about it. He's going to be helped by the fact that Christoph Zeller has completely burned his battery out. There's no power there as... Pedreño! Pedregno's made a mistake. He's he's made a mistake on the exit of Tamburello, and he's just lost fourth to Hofland. Well, that completely changed what I was talking about anyway.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the way it goes. I mean, once it's unlucky, twice you've just got to think, has Pedregno, is he just pushing things a bit too hard at the moment? Has he made a bit of an error with the setup? Is he just getting caught out on these exit curves? But that is another chicane where Pedregno's had a moment, wasn't able to save this one. And you can see what that has done. It's given the front two an absolutely fantastic opportunity. They're now well clear of Cartalondi. And it has brought Pedregno in between Hofland and Scheller. Thankfully for him, he did have that bit of a gap behind the Alpine car. So didn't lose too many positions. And we'll see whether he can now recover things in this race where we are just over a third raced distance here. And Nordyke and Butcher all of a sudden looking very good indeed to take an advantage over what is the championship leader. Ruben Pedregno was leading the championship by 1 point going into today. He's going to have a fantastic final 20 laps if he wants to come out of this still leading the championship. As things just sort of settle down once again, the gaps in the field staying constant at that sort of 6-7 tenths of a second at the moment. This second group of Hofland, Pedregno, Scheller, Charbot, Cognier, Kinchi, Pookie, West, Wiesel making their way through. We've still only had 2 penalties, and that is 3 seconds for Vallejo and 3 seconds for George Nader at the moment. And I suppose now, I mean, obviously, Lundy's gained a place from that mistake, but he's lost out DRS, so that's not necessarily the best news for him. I wonder whether Alfie Butcher's just going to think about going for something a bit more aggressive around here, trying to, pit a few laps earlier and just break that DRS train from Joost Nordyke with a big undercut, because the medium tyres, they'll heat up pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah, they will. And as Jordan Poland is proving, they are quite a bit quicker than the hard tyres. So it wouldn't surprise me if Alfie Butcher went for the undercut. So, yeah, if that's what he does, expect him to push like an absolute madman when he comes out of the pits. No sign of it at the moment. I think your earlier guess around kind of, what was it, 17, 18, maybe up to 20. Is probably about right. 20 is actually probably a bit late. So in the next 5 laps, I would expect people to be coming into the pits by plan rather than, obviously, Jordan had no choice. He had to come in. So, yeah, that's when I'm expecting everybody else to come in. Joost and Alfie really do have an advantage because not only are they streaking away up front, they've still got a decent amount in the ERS battery. Carter Lundy is basically bouncing around between 5 and nothing. But he's essentially in no man's land. As Duncan Hofland behind has got Ruben Pedregno for company. And then you've got Christoph Zeller, who he himself has just flown off the road, actually, coming through Acca Minerale. He's, I suspect he'll get a warning for that one. That hasn't given him a penalty, but he can't do that too many times. He's got the house of Ben Sabaconi and the Ferrari of Chanakinchi right with him as well. Jumping back up to the top 2. Now let's see. Who are either of these going to come in this time? Not on this occasion. So I think you're onto something here, Luke. I reckon Alfie is going to try and undercut Joost.
I mean, Alfie did something different at Suzuka. He did start on the hards, whereas everyone else started on the mediums, was able to go longer, and when he came out of the pits, was out of DRS range, and no one could get close to him as well. Pookie, West, Wiesel, and George Nader all into the pits, so they're all going a bit earlier than we expected for a set of the medium tyres. That little mistake from Christoph Scheller's put him under some real pressure from Benji Charbot-Cognier, who's unable to make the move work in towards Villeneuve, and that has split this train up. As you can see, Chanakinchi has got stuck behind them as well. So, all those that have come into the pits, they'll be able to go towards the end of the race, and we'll just see what kind of pace Pookie, Wiesel, West, Nader can do relative to everyone else. Obviously, as we already mentioned, it is an extremely long pit lane around here, so the pit loss time pushing 27-28 seconds. But I think we'll see that gap coming down between the leaders and those on the mediums. They won't be too worried about that at the moment, but it might just be a bit of a wake-up call if we see the likes of Lundy, Hofland and Pedregno come into the pits this lap. So let's follow the Alpine around at the moment. In towards Ravazza he goes. He's had 1 podium so far this season. Do any of the lead 2 come into the pits? No, they don't. But Carter Lundy is in, the Canadian, at the end of lap number 15. The real first one of our leaders to come in for his scheduled stop.
Yeah, another 4-car group have come in this time. Lundy, Hoffman, Pedreño and Zeller have all come into the pits for those medium tyres. So again, we'll see how well that works out for them. Now Carter should... Oh, what's happened to Luke? Oh, he's retired in the pit lane. Luke has chosen to retire his car into the pit lane. It's not been a good race for the Merc pair. Now, is Carter going to be able to get out ahead of Norbert Jakob? He should just about manage it. Yes, so Carter has managed to come out ahead of Norbert Jakob because Norbert has not pitted yet, but Norbert is dragging Duncan Hoffman along for the ride as well. As we've lost George Nader as well. So George's car has come into the pits and put softs on. That would be adventurous. But, you know, so George Nader and Luke Smith are both out of this race. And again, keeping an eye on the top two. Now, no immediate pressure behind. How long are they going to string out these hard tyres? Leader is in, and Alfie has decided to overcut Joost. I wonder if he was waiting to do the opposite of what Joost was doing. I wonder whether that's the wrong decision. I would have thought it would have been better to mirror what Joost is doing. We will see if that pays off for him. But that's another... Oh, no, I was going to say another group of 4, but this time it's a group of 5. Nordijk, Sabakonyi, Older, Laverty and Perroni. Oh, the Alphas are double stacking, are they? They might get away with it. No, Laverty is... Oh, no! Simon Perroni's had to stack behind his teammate. So Simon Perroni did lose a little bit of time as a result of that. But we'll see if it's going to hurt him too badly as he now rejoins. But it's all going to be down as Simon Perroni is retired from the session as his car was leaving the pit lane. So hopefully that doesn't cause too much of an issue. But his car is basically just going to crawl to a halt. Hopefully it doesn't trigger a safety car or anything like that. So that's the 3rd car now out in this race.
Yeah, the 3rd retirement we've seen in this race, all in the pits. Perronier, Smith and Nader, I think. Ooh, we've got some side-by-side action going further on down the field, and it is Benji Charbonnier and Istvan Pukki. We just caught this one in the background. Charbonnier just stays ahead. He was attacking an Alpha Tauri earlier on. He's defending from one quite hard at the moment. Pukki, obviously, with a lot more warmed-up medium tyres than his fellow FES driver. No real changes in that pit stop period as now Alfie Butcher comes into the pits alongside Chad Akinci, and Ruben Vallejo actually decides to stay out. Duncan Hoffland losing out as he got stuck behind Norbert Jakob, who had yet to come into the pits, so that could definitely help Carter Lundy as the race goes on. But here's Joost Nordijk coming down towards the finish line, or coming down towards the start line. We'll see Alfie Butcher, I think, just exiting the pits on the right-hand side. And as you called it, Chris, it hasn't really helped him out at the moment, and he'll have colder tyres, so this is a bit of an opportunity for Nordijk to build that gap up.
Yeah, and a potential opportunity for Carter to try and close in on Alfie Butcher as well, although Carter's got no battery to use whatsoever. It won't take too long for Alfie to get those tyres fired up and into their best operating window, but he left out a lap too late. He should have mirrored. And it's easy for me to say, you know, the benefit of hindsight. And now, oh, we got trouble. That's Jack West in trouble. Oh no, the Ferrari is facing the wall. It's the AI has bounced it off the wall and gotten that one going. That's the Ferrari in trouble. He's out of the session, but the car's not retired. So unless he had a technical fault that led up to that point, as his car is continuing, so Jack could rejoin the race, but that is a great shame for the Ferrari.
Yeah, Chad Akinci also, I think, dropping down the order, which I'm not sure was whether because he's just on cold tyres or whether he was involved in that as well. But we did have the two.
I think he was.
Yeah, we had the
I
two
think he
Mercedes.
was involved in it as well.
Two Mercedes getting involved with each other earlier. I wonder whether the same thing or something similar has happened with the two Ferraris. It is Ruben Vallejo doing something similar to what he tried in Mexico. Just stayed out a lot longer. And I think, to be honest, caused absolute chaos as Ruben Pedreño gets ahead of Duncan Hoffland, then recovering from that early mistake. Ruben Pedreño is now up into a net 4th position. And are we going to see Vallejo try to stay out as long as possible to disrupt the likes of Nordijk and Butcher and just bring Pedreño back into this lead battle?
It's possible, but he's got a long way to go on those tyres if that is the case. Cloud is gathering as well up the top, I've just noticed. Are we going to face rain towards the end? I doubt it, to be honest. It would have to really cloud over very, very quickly and rain very hard for it to make a substantial difference in this race. But on goes Vallejo. How long is he going to go on those hard tires? I'd imagine they could probably go another 4 to 5 laps. Oh, as he's understeered off the road at Ravazza. Maybe they can't do another 4 or 5 laps then. They certainly won't be comfortable. And he's carrying on. So I think what you've suggested, Luke, is exactly what he's doing. He wants to try and get in the way, try and aggravate Nordyke and Butcher and bring his teammate back into the game. That's what I reckon he's going for. So he's just going to carry on these tyres until they are down to rubber bands, stick on a set of softs at the end, because why not? And see what happens. Speaking of soft tyres, Jack West's AI has been in again and put soft tyres on. Is that the AI is determined to run soft tyres, it seems?
Yeah, the AI is determined to try a fastest lap run at the moment, but I think with the AI settings, I don't think we'll be seeing that happen. Simon Pevinier has finally pulled off the side of the road after doing a full lap after coming out of the pits. The AI definitely doing some interesting things tonight, as Norbert Jakob also on an interesting strategy after that spin earlier on. He's just been passed by Istvan Pukki, the AlphaTauri now up into 9th place. But yeah, the only reason Vallejo can be staying out is to disrupt those behind him. He did this in Mexico. It didn't make him the most popular of drivers. I don't reckon he cares about that too much in this situation. He's just trying to see what he can do and see if he can help his teammates out in any way. And as long as it's within the rules, there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of this could depend on which part of the track Nordyke catches up to the back of Vallejo. If he does it, coming out of Tozer and on the run down towards Piratella, he could be stuck behind Vallejo for a long, long way, possibly all the way until we get towards Tamburello. And Ruben Pedreño's put a spurt on that lap. He's burned up his ERS. Crucially, though, he's got himself within DRS range of Cartolondi. So maybe, just maybe, even without his teammates' help, we might be able to see Ruben Pedreño getting his way back towards the podium. Joost Nordyke still in the net lead of this race, though, and has now got himself 2 seconds in the net lead. Staying out on that overcut, and obviously with the tyre warm-up that they need to do, it's not worked out at all for Alfie.
Not at the moment, but we still have 12 laps remaining, so there's still plenty of time for things to happen. Also, Norbert Jakob is going a very long way on those hard tyres. He hasn't been in either. He's now got Max Wiesel on his case. Jakob was swapping positions with Istvan Pukki for a few laps, but now the Alpine is staring at the back of the Oracle emblazoned Red Bull as they are coming down the hill from Piratella down to Accumilorali, and Wiesel will feel very, very stuck behind the Red Bull at the moment. Is he going to try and banzai that one into the next chicane? He thinks about it, but opts not to do it. It's not a very big braking zone. His better option is to go for Ravazza if he doesn't want to wait for another lap down towards Tozer. And I think that's what he's going to do. Or is it? No. I think he thought about it, but opted not to do it. He's going to go with the safest option, which is a DRS overtake along the start finish straight. The Red Bull still not come in. And there we go. Max Wiesel just dances around Norbert Jakob. And off to 10th position goes the Alpine.
Easy as you like there from Max Wiesel, who himself is still in that championship hunt, 15 points behind going into tonight. We've still got Ruben Vallejo to come into the pits. He will drop further back, but with Brazil, Saudi Arabia, USA and Silverstone to come after tonight, definitely wouldn't count him out yet. Just going a bit wide out of the second part of Villeneuve there. Wouldn't be surprised if that did get him a track limits warning. The top two in terms of those that have pitted, because as you can see on screen at the moment, still Ruben Vallejo and Norbert Jakob have yet to come into the pits. Nordyke and Butcher both putting on a supreme pace and have really, I think, ruined any chance for now that Lundy had of getting into the top two. And he's going to have to start a few more concerns now, because Ruben Pedreño and Duncan Hofland, who's been dragged along with this, are now all over the back of the Alpine, as that is Norbert Jakob, I think, there, who's just had a little bit of an issue. Is he? No, it's Vallejo. Vallejo's got a puncture, I think. Vallejo's got a puncture. Speeding into the pit lane he goes. Are we going to see Vallejo retire from the race? Indeed we are. We just saw a yellow flag there, and then Nordyke instantly overtakes. So if he was trying the hold-up strategy, unfortunately for him, I think his tyres just gave out before that was possible.
Yeah, I couldn't quite see whether that was a puncture for him, but it is a puncture for Norbert Jakob. Or it's a spin for Norbert Jakob, and he's carried on. What is he doing? Those tyres must be down to absolutely nothing. Oh, it was a spin, I beg your pardon, but those tyres must be down to absolute canvas by now. He cannot get that car to turn in. He's behind his teammate. Quite what he's doing, I have no idea. But yeah, disaster for Vallejo. It did look like that was the team strategy he was aiming for, but it did not pay off for McLaren whatsoever, as that's another car 4 down out of this race now, or 5 down, including Jack, whose AI is still going on as Ruben Pedreño nearly hits the back of Carter Lundy, coming through Variante Alta as he's slipstreaming the Alpine now. Is he going to try and get through? Well, Carter defends the inside line coming into Ravassa. Again, a little tap between the two. Duncan Offland is there to pick up the pieces if it does all go wrong. This surely should be an easy overtake for the McLaren and potentially the Aston Martin as well. Oh, this is close, and the McLaren's boxed in between the Aston Martin and the Alpine. Duncan Hoffman nails the pair of them for third. Pedreño does manage to squeeze through on the Canadian but Duncan Hoffman just seizes the opportunity and grabs that podium spot for now at least.
Very smart driving there from Duncan Hoffland. And like you said, Pedreño just got himself boxed in behind Carter Lundy. I don't think Ruben will be too happy with that. But again, the Carter doing nothing wrong, just trying to defend as much as he can. Yeah, you don't see bump drafting too often in the F1 cars, but that's what we were getting on the run down towards Ravassa. Pedreño just trying to speed Lundy up, and you can see why. They've lost about 2 seconds in the last couple of laps to those front 2 drivers who are just in a league of their own at the moment. Joost Noordijk 2 seconds ahead in this race. Alfie Butcher, be worth him staying within that range, because a 3-second penalty would bring Alfie right back into this, or just a tiny little mistake from Joost, and we know those kind of things can happen. Alfie in second place, Duncan Hoffland in third. And we'll see whether Ruben Pedreño, now that he's not going to be boxed in, we'll see whether he's got a bit more luck at getting onto the podium places, back where he was earlier on, of course, before he made that mistake out of Tamburello. I think on this occasion, though, he is just going to be a bit too far behind. DRS is powerful around here. You can see him closing in. But unless you're alongside into the braking zone in Tamburello, it is never really going to work out. So Hoffland stays in third, Pedreño stays in fourth, Lundy in fifth. You've got Scheller, Charbot, Kanye, Pookie, Wiesel and Older, the rest of the point scorers. And I think Jack Laverty, with not having a penalty and Matthew Older having that penalty, could well get his second point of the season, going with the one that he managed to get last time around. I mean, going back to that move that we saw, Pedreño was doing all the hard work, really, trying to push Carter Lundy along, force him into the mistake, and in the end, when, got the DRS, tried to move alongside, but there was an Aston Martin in the way.
That was a brilliant move from Duncan Hoffland. Absolutely superb. That puts the Astons first and third. A great team result for them. Norbert Jakob onto the soft tyres now. Well, there's an alternate strategy for you. Look how far behind the lead group he is. That is he's nearly a minute behind Joost Noordijk. You're not going to make up that much time in, 7 laps? Not even vaguely possible. He'll get the fastest lap, sure. You won't get a point for it, but being that far back. But he will gain the fastest lap, I would think. That's assuming his tyres hold out at that kind of racing pace for 6 laps. But we will see. We'll see what he can do. He's still pressing on. He's still in the game. So fair play to you. Ready to pick up the pieces from anybody else if it does go wrong for any other driver. Of course, it's a question mark whether Jordan's tyres are going to last long enough. And never mind, just as I said that, he came into the pits anyway. The 16 laps was as much as he could manage on those medium tyres, which is pretty much a signed, sealed, delivered message to everybody else, because your tyres will make it. Bearing in mind, the Jordan Ponan came in obviously 16 laps ago, meaning his car came in heavier than everybody else's who've gone onto the medium tyres. So everyone else's mediums will be a bit less worn than Jordan's was, and he managed 16 laps on them. So everybody else should be fairly comfortable on their strategy, but we've still got battling to go through. You've got a 3-car battle for third between Hoffland, Pedreño and Lundy, and there's also a 3-car fight going on for ninth between Visa, Alder and Laverty. So there's still plenty of battling out there to conclude, and Zeller is not too far off the back of the podium train, so he could still get involved. Does look like the leaders have settled into their own rhythm, but as several people have proven, it's very easy to spin and make that all-crucial mistake here in Imola.
Yeah, just braking, a fraction of a second too late at the speeds they're doing. Up towards 200 miles per hour coming into Tamburello. not too much to make a slight mistake heading into the gravel, and then you will be losing plenty of places, even if you don't end up losing the car. But Hofland just seems to be trying to control things in that third place at the moment. And fair play to London, given how much he was struggling at the front of that train. He is managing to hang with these guys now. If he could just build up a bit more ERS in the final 5.5 laps, you never know whether we'll see the Alpine fighting his way back up to get that second podium of the season, going with the second place that he got a couple of weeks ago in Suzuka. His teammate, Robert Jakob, unsurprisingly, does set the fastest lap of the race. Not to Lund's teammate Max Wiesel now starting to come under a bit more pressure from Matthew Alder and Jack Laverty. It is Pookie and Wiesel on the oldest medium tyres, as you can see on the timing tower on the left-hand side. So if anyone is going to be struggling with the tyres at the end of the race, it is going to be Pookie and Wiesel. There's Matthew Alder just about holding on from Jack Laverty at the moment. Jack West's AI says that 7 laps is all you're going to do on the soft tyres. He comes into the pits, and that'll be, I imagine, from the AI, another set of soft tyres, unless they do something that absolutely surprises us. With Jack Laverty still all over the back of Matthew Alder, and I think he wants to get this move done. Yes, it won't count for position because Alder's got that penalty. If Jack Laverty gets this move done, I just get the feeling he might be able to put a bit more pressure on Max Wiesel and possibly get ahead of that Alpine as well. So dispatching the Red Bull as soon as possible could be a good idea for the Alfa Romeo driver.
Could very well be. As the remaining laps tick down, there's less than 5 of them left. It's still Nordyke from Butcher, now nearly 3 seconds between the Aston and the Williams, and a 6-second gap down to the next battle going on. Hofland, Pedreño and Lundy all in contention for the third and final podium position. Pedreño has got the most battery energy out of the 3 of them. Carter has got less than 20%. Duncan with just under 50, but Ruben has nearly 85%, so he's in a real great position to be able to dump the battery at the right time. And again, the worth of that ERS energy has been proven in battles like this, where it's just constant application of pressure, as I said before. So, Pedreño is in a pretty decent spot, but Hofland is doing exactly what he needs to do to keep the McLaren at bay without having to burn too much of his ERS energy. So the Aston's doing a great job of defending that third position without having to compromise his race by too much of a degree. And the second three-way battle, as you were mentioning earlier, with Wiesel, Alder and Laverty, Max Wiesel has got Matthew Alder breathing right down his diffuser at the moment, and just a couple of seconds down the road is Istvan Pukki as well. So if the future esports driver makes a mistake, then he will absolutely be greeted by 3 charging cars.
Yeah, we'll have to see how the final couple of laps go for Pukki and Wiesel. We know those tyres will get to the end. It's just what sort of shape they'll be at the end of this race. Is a bit unsure, but having their own little fun battle further down the field. They're not going to get any points for this, but they're just enjoying themselves at the moment. Similar to what we saw from a Mercedes and a Red Bull last week, but it was Will Lewis and Matthew Alder on that occasion. Poland and Jakob fighting for 13th and 14th place and fighting for that fastest lap. As Chris said, if you finish in the top 10 and get the fastest lap, you will get a point. If you're outside the top 10 and get the fastest lap, you will not. And the rest of the points, it's 16 for a win, 12 for second, 10 for third, 8 for fourth, and then 6 down to 1 for 5th down to 10th place. So as things stand at the moment, Alfie Butcher will be taking the lead of the championship, even if Ruben Pedreño does manage to work his way up into 4th place, into 3rd place. As there we go, on the run down towards Tamburello, Matthew Alder has now got ahead of Max Vissu. Now, Matthew's got to try and put the hammer down and just see if he can somehow build a 3-second gap and maybe get himself into the points for what I would believe, as I just quickly check, get himself into the points for what would only be the 3rd time this season.
You're absolutely right on that occasion. That sounds wrong. On this occasion, I should say. Not insinuating you're only right on occasions, Mr. Etheridge. I got that sentence completely wrong. Please erase it from your memory. But yeah, absolutely. It would definitely take mistakes from others for Alder to hang on to that points pay position, as it would be, like you say, his 3rd time in the points this season thus far. But I mean, he's giving it everything he's got to try and do exactly that. We'll see if he is able to do so. Also, I've just spotted Ben Sabakonyi is right there, ready to get DRS off the back of Christoph Zeller. Do we have a potential battle forming for 6th position on the penultimate lap of this race? Ooh, more fighting going on. Pedreño's getting close to Hofland, but again, he's been getting close to Hofland at that very point for lap after lap after lap. And the energy levels are about what they were. Carter's is actually down to 5% now, so I think he's going to have to concede unless Duncan and Pedreño come together. He's pretty much going to have to concede that he's not going to be in a position to challenge. I'm going to very much keep an eye on Ruben Pedreño because he's glued to the back of the Aston now.
Yeah, he is. I've just got to wonder whether we saw a slight mistake from Christoph Scheller because he was hovering at about the 1.5 second point behind the back of this train. And now he's 3 seconds behind, and now Ben Charbonnier is really, right up his exhaust pipe as things are going at the moment. But yeah, Duncan Hofland, I think we kind of expected this. Pedreño's been saving his ERS, has waited for this point, saved a bit of tyres, has started putting the pressure on, as that is Jordan Poland, who's had a spin out of Tamburello. That will affect nothing, and he will be able to continue. Nordyke and Butcher onto the final lap of this race, but is Duncan Hofland going to hold on to this 3rd place straight away? He's trying to defend on the run down towards Tamburello, just weaving that car, trying to break the toe. He's run out of ERS. I don't think Pedreño is going to be close enough unless he goes for the send of all sends. And Pedreño just has to back off for now, but Charbonnier makes his way past Christoph Scheller, so that is the Haas car in towards 6th place. Is that the one and only chance over for Pedreño?
We will see. Laverty's getting close to Alder, to Wiesel as well, as Jordan Poland has spun again. Oh dear, that is going from bad to disastrous in the Mercedes. He's pretty much just going to poodle along. He's got everybody closing in on him. Joost Noordijk, 3.7 seconds between himself and Alfie Butcher. That's the real attention on that battle for 3rd place at the moment. Can Duncan do it? Oh my goodness me, is that yellows again in sector 3? I'm not sure who that's for. That's Eastran. Pookie's in trouble. Oh no, Eastran Pookie. He's very slow, he's ghosted, so trouble for him. But your winner here in Imola is the Aston Martin of Joost Noordijk. Alfie Butcher comes home in 2nd, but who's going to get 3rd?
It's going to be Hofland, just from Pedreño, who... yeah, I think that just sums up how Ruben Pedreño feels after that spin earlier on. Carter Lundy holds on for 5th, and he dropped back massively on the final lap. Charbonnier in 6th, Seller in 7th. Matthew Alder will end up dropping down towards 10th place in the end after Istvan Pookie had that trouble. And Istvan Pookie going very slow indeed, so I've got to wonder whether the AlphaTauri driver has had some sort of disconnection issue or had some sort of puncture there, because Pookie comes home in 12th place, I think showing how much he had pushed those tyres. But Joost Noordijk, 4th race this season, 4th podium, and his 2nd win. As we just try to quickly do some maths in our head, I think that now actually puts him ahead of Pedreño on the championship on countback. I think our top 3 in the championship are now separated by 3 points.
Oh, lovely. With several rounds still to go. What have we got? 4 rounds remaining after this one. Well, driver of the day, Duncan Hofland. I would say that double overtake on the way to Tamburello a few laps ago would have earned that one. But with the amount of positions he's gained as well, it has been a storming effort for Duncan and the Aston Martin pair.
Yeah, delight then for Duncan Hofland getting on the podium. Delight for Joost Noordijk as well. And Aston Martin, with that result, will retake the lead of the championship. But it is a Williams driver in Alfie Butcher who finished in 2nd place, who is now in the lead of the Drivers' Championship. As they spray the champagne on the podium, we're getting quite used to seeing these on their podium this season. It's the 4th podium each for Butcher and Noordijk, and the 2nd one for Duncan Hofland, and it is the 2nd win of the season for Joost Noordijk. He takes the victory by 4 seconds, pitting that 1 lap earlier, proving to be key for him. Duncan Hofland finishing in 3rd behind Butcher. Pedreño so close. If it wasn't for that mistake, who knows what could have happened with him. Cartolondi in 5th. Charbonnier continuing his good form from last week in 6th. Scheller, Wiesel, Laverty and Alder picking up the final points positions. Chanakinchi just missing out in his first full-time drive. Istvan Pookie with that issue in the end was 12th. Jacob got the fastest lap in 13th. Poland was a lap down. West left the session. Vallejo, Perronier, Smith and Nader all retired in the pit lane from, I think, if we're being honest, it's kind of what we expected at Imola. A lot of times it looked like something would happen, but because of how difficult it is to overtake around here, it never really did. But, I mean, Nordyke, he called the strategy absolutely bang on. He did what we said you had to do. If you manage to break the DRS window around here, it's going to be very hard for anyone to catch you up. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, 100%. And speaking of Duncan Hoffland, he's in the waiting room ready for us.
Yeah, so it won't be too long before we do get those in. I didn't even put the invite in the chat when he's decided to join the waiting room, which is always nice when the drivers are that well trained and they decide to join the waiting room straight away. But seeing as they are all making their way in, we might as well drag them over and get this started. And we are going to start with a man who's taken his second victory of this season, Joost Nordyke. A fantastic performance from yourself today. Pitting that one lap earlier turned out to be crucial.
Yeah, I knew in practice that the undercut was quite strong. And I also knew that the mediums are still quite good on cold tires. So I think the practice was very important because I knew on what throttle I could take some corners. And I think that was the most important thing in the race, to get the gap to Alfie.
Yeah, certainly worked out that way. Tell us about the start of the race, because you didn't have the best of starts. Did you just get too much wheel spin, or was it just a fantastic start for Alfie?
I have some struggles with my potentiometer of my throttle. Like below 40% is like flickering a lot, so couldn't get it consistent in the right RPM. So I think I lost a lot there, but driving in seconds is also pretty good, so wasn't really angry about that.
Yeah, things certainly worked out well for yourself. You're now, by my calculations, just 3 points off the lead of the championship, and you've only done 4 races. How are you feeling going ahead into our final race before the break week at Interlagos?
I said previous week that Imola was not my strongest track, but I'm not gonna say that anymore. So I will see then in practice how it's going, and hopefully I will get into the pace very, very quick.
Yeah, well, you've got a podium in every single race you've had so far, yo. So you're not doing too bad whatsoever. Congratulations on the victory. We'll let you head off and celebrate.
Thanks.
And time for the second of the Aston Martins. Getting third place in this race was Duncan Hoffland. Chris, your turn to lead us through this one.
Duncan, that overtake. Come on, talk us through it. That from our side, it looked magic.
I think you mean the double overtake?
You'd be right, yes.
Yeah, I saw Cartelloni struggling a bit, and Ruben was getting really close as well. And I had to make sure to get past Carter. And Ruben didn't really go for the overtake. So I decided I'm going to go anyway. And if Ruben is not going to go, I'm going to get you both. So that's what I did. And yeah, I think on stream it looks quite cool.
It looked magnificent for us. And did you worry that you were going to be under pressure because you had no DRS off of anybody in front of you? Did you have to keep a constant eye behind you on who was chasing you, or were you not worried about that?
Well, I was pretty confident in the race. Also a couple of times closing the gap. And yeah, unfortunately I started in P11 because of my amazing quali pace. So that was unfortunate, but in the race it went pretty good, and I saw Ruben and Carter struggling a couple times on exit. So yeah, I was confident, but I had to watch out for Ruben at the end. What he did, he still tried to go for an overtake.
So how does Interlagos work for you? You weren't. Are you happy about Interlagos? Are you happy about Brazil?
I think it's a really good track. Good for racing. A lot of overtaking opportunities. Not really one of my best, but I'm gonna do my best as always.
Well, if you're anything like Joost, saying a track isn't your best kind of puts you on the front row. So we'll look forward to a lights the flag victory with fastest lap to boot.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Duncan Hoffland.
Yeah, thanks to Duncan and Joost for joining us. It doesn't look like we are getting Alfie, unfortunately, but we'll keep an eye out to see if our new championship leader does join us. And as we've already said, next week it is going to be Interlagos. Feels weird not having it at the end of the season, but it is the last race before the break week. And I think, as Duncan said there, it always seems to produce, in real life and on the game, fantastic action.
That it does, and I love Interlagos. I've always been a big fan of it. And I really look forward to seeing what our drivers can do. And if we do have bad weather there, oh my God, it causes chaos. When it rains in Brazil, it does it properly. So, yeah, if they've got rain, we're in for a spectacular race.
Yes, we certainly are. So make sure to join us in a week's time for that one. But there is plenty more action to come here at PSGL before we head towards Interlagos. There is all the PlayStation tiers on Sunday and Monday, with Jess Ball and Aidan Carter taking us through the top tier action on PlayStation at 8 PM. Can Dadirko recover from his bad result last week? In fact, will Dadirko take part now that he's got himself a fancy shiny new PC? Wouldn't surprise me if we see him making 1 or 2 reserve appearances in this tier before the end of the season. There's also Gran Turismo action on Tuesday nights from, well, they've got a week off, but in a couple of weeks' time you'll be able to see the Gran Turismo action, and then we'll be back on Thursday with the PC tiers from Interlagos for our final race before the break week. Alfie Butcher is now in the lead of the championship. Joost Noordijk gets his second win of the season. Will we see Ruben Pedreño fighting back at Interlagos? Surely we can't wait for that one. Thanks to Grid Rival, our sponsors. Thanks to our lead partners as well. GTA Omega for giving us all these lovely chairs. Make sure to use PSGL to get 5% off. You can check both of their links in the description below. And thank you all so much for watching and engaging with us for chat. And from myself and Chris, we'll see you in a week's time at Interlagos. Take care of yourselves, everybody, and goodbye.
This broadcast was brought to you by GT Omega and Grid Rival, proudly supporting PSGL.